Hello, it's Carly West from McLennan County, and today we're going to start talking about week 2 for our Hatching at Home project that we're doing. Today we're going to talk about embryology and kind of what our chicks have gone through for the past 8 days and what they'll continue going through until day 21 and after. So let's recap what we talked about last week. We talked about what was inside of our fertilized eggs and what was inside of non-fertilized eggs. So we'll just go over the terminology that we used last week. First, we have our egg shell, which is the outside layer of our egg. Then we also talked about the air cell, which is right here. And this is the air that the baby chicks will have when they first start hatching. We also talked about the albumin. We have our thin albumin, which is the liquidy outer layer of the white, and the thick albumin, which is more surrounding the yolk, and it's more of the thicker part of the white that we normally use. Then we have the crazy C word, chalaza, or chalaza in this sense, and this is what is anchoring the egg to the shell, and that is on either side of the yolk. And then we have our yolk right here, which everyone knows, and this is the nutrients that the baby chick is getting while it's inside the egg. And then we have our germinal disc, or our germ spot, as we like to call it, and it's right here, and that is where the embryo will start growing, and that is only in the fertilized eggs. Now moving on, we talked about our incubators. So there's actually two types of incubators. We have our still air incubators and our forced draft incubators. Our incubator that we're using is a forced draft, and that means that it has a fan inside. It has multiple layers that we can put our eggs in, and the temperature needs to be at 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And so I put a picture right here of our forced draft incubator. This one's a little bit different than the one that we have, but it is the same type of incubator. And then we have our still air incubators, which only incubate on one layer. They're more of the older ones. Maybe you've seen a styrofoam one before. And these don't have a fan, and the temperature needs to be 102 degrees Fahrenheit at the top of the eggs. And so here is our still air incubator right here. Ooh. So we also talked about how hens lay on their eggs as well, and they're kind of like the natural incubators. We talked about how the hens lay their eggs over a period of a few days, and once they're all laid, she gathers them all up and she sits on top of them, and she'll do that for that 21-day period as well. And unlike our like our incubator and how it has the turner to move the eggs so that each side gets the heat that it needs, she does the same thing where she'll push the eggs from the inside of the circle out, move the ones from the outside in so that everyone's getting the warmth that they need from her body. So she'll rotate them every few hours and keep them circulating the way that they should be. So what is embryology? So embryology is a science that deals with growing and the development of an embryo and as it turns into a chick inside of the egg. So when we look at embryology, we'll break it down through a few days. So we'll start at day 1 through 7. And here we have kind of a general picture of what it's going to look like through those first few days. So day 3 is really when we start looking at the embryo inside of the egg. This is when the body takes its shape and kind of looks like a backwards question mark, and it's surrounded by blood vessels in the yolk sac. So that means that we have a healthy embryo growing inside of that egg, and then the head and the heart begin to form. So day 3, it's really going to start looking like something is inside of that egg, and it's going to start looking pretty cool. So day 4, all of the organs, so organs like in the digestive tract and the nervous system, all of those are present. All of those are beginning to really form. Day 5, the face and the nasal parts begin to take shape. And then day 6, the beak begins to form, and the brain is present, but there's not a skull on our chick yet. And the eyes have formed, but they don't have eyelids yet. And our legs and wing buds are present. So that means that where the legs and the wings are growing, they're starting to have little buds, like on a flower. And then all parts of the chick have now begun to develop. So day 6, we're really getting into the development of our chick. Moving on to day 9. So we're at days 8 through 14. Day 9 is what our chicks are on right now. And so our chicks are complete except for the feathers and the growth. So it's kind of gotten its full body shape going, but it's not as big as it's going to be. It has where the feathers are going to grow, but those feathers haven't grown yet. So we'll skip ahead a few days. It's just going to continue growing, getting a little bit bigger. And on day 12, our eyelids are going to cover the eyes. And hair-like feathers are going to cover the skin. So they're not going to be quite feathers yet, but they're starting to get there. And our chicks are going to be beginning to swallow the albumin as a protein source. And then day 14, the embryo moves itself in the shell, so its head is by the air cell at the large end of the egg. Because remember that air cell is our first breath of air for those chicks as they're about to hatch out of their shell. Moving on to day 15 through 17. Day 15, the body is going to be covered with down feathers and the egg tooth is formed. And so the egg tooth is really important for a chick. It's a hard white spot on the tip of the chick's beak, and this is what it's going to use to break, crack, and chip the egg so it's able to get out of the shell during hatching. So remember that term, egg tooth, because that's really important when we get down to the end of the hatching. And then the feet also now have toenails. So that's day 15. Day 16, the albumin is almost gone, and the yolk is going to continue as a food source for the chick. So it's eating up all those extra parts that are inside of the egg that we normally eat, so it can also get nutrients from it. Day 17, the head is under the right wing, and the beak is turned towards the air cell at the large end of the shell. At the end of this day, our humidity is going to be increased. So inside of our incubator, I've been putting water in it every day to keep the humidity up, and so I'm going to increase that humidity around day 17. And the incubator is now going to be kept closed until the hatched chicks are dried off and ready to be moved. Days 18 through 21, we're getting close to the end. These are the exciting times. Day 18, the embryo is almost full grown and ready to begin the hatching process. So we skip ahead a day and we go to day 20, and the yolk sac is drawn into the embryo's body. So it's fully eaten our yolk sac now, and it will need this food source for energy during the hatching process in its first few days of life. The embryo now takes up all the space except for the air cell, and it will pip, and pip means to break and peck at the shell with its egg tooth and fill its lungs with oxygen from the air cell. So remember that air cell is really important during the hatching process. Day 21 is finally hatching time, and the embryo's normal position before hatching is to have its head under its right wing at the large end of the egg, with its beak pointing at the air cell. The embryo will use its egg tooth to pip or break and chip almost all the way around the inside of the shell. Then, by kicking, it will emerge out of the shell all wet and tired. For a few hours, it will need to rest and dry off into a warm, fluffy chick, and then I'll keep it warm in the incubator until completely dry. So I know it's really exciting when they start hatching, and I'll definitely be posting more videos about that when the time comes, but they're going to have to stay in that incubator just a little bit longer so they have time to dry off and kind of acclimate themselves to being outside of their comfortable shell that they've been in for the past 21 days. So what happens after the chicks have hatched? Well, we are going to put them into a brooder once they are dry and ready to be moved. and they'll have a little bit more of their energy back, and they might not eat their chick food for another 2 days because they still have that nutrients from the yolk and the albumin that they've been eating for the past 21 days. So we'll have a plastic tub similar to the one in the picture. They'll have food, water, a heat lamp so they can stay warm, and shavings so that they're comfortable in their new environment. Now, after you have finished watching this PowerPoint video, then I'm going to be posting another video candling our eggs as they are on day 9 so we can kind of see what's going on the inside. And so we'll talk about more about that in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed this one and learned a little something about embryology and what's happening in our eggs throughout the 21-day period. Thank you.